Big Skinny here with you. Hope you're having a great evening. I tell you what, we took a trip to San Antonio a few weeks back, and man, nothing like the sounds and sights of San Antonio. It was great being there. Got a chance to hang out with some really cool dudes. Got to visit with the guys that are making a great movie, 521 North Main Street. It's going to be coming out soon. A horror flick if you're into that kind of thing. But we get a chance to sit down and talk to the guys that were in charge of making this movie. And I tell you what, it was quite a lot of fun and a very interesting conversation, to say the least. I want to give special thanks to my wife, who was running the camera in the background. Had to wake her up early to do so. But, we got her done. Had a fun trip. So make sure you sit back and enjoy our conversation with Mark Morales, Sergio, and Bill from the movie set of 521 North Main Street. It's all coming your way on this episode of Casual Conversations with Big Skinny. Hey, this is Big Skinny. Hope you're having a great day today. And I tell you what, we're doing something special here today. We are going, not really live, so to speak, but this is our first live, I would say one-on-one, but there's four of us here today. But this is our first interview since the pandemic, and we are so glad to be here in San Antonio, Texas today. And we got a great one for you today. We've got what's the name of the film crew once again, guys?
It's High Five and Ants Productions.
High Five and Ants Productions. They are working on the movie 521 North Main Street. It's going to be a really cool horror flick. And man, we're here today going to do some interviews with these guys and find out what's going on and what it takes to make a movie. And we have the director and screenwriter here, Mr. Mark Morales.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark.
Tell a little bit about myself. Well, my first movie. I have a huge theater background. I've been writing for a long time. Got published once, twice, but it was a play. Originally from New York, but live in Texas now. Been here for about 4 years. Yay! All right, Texas. And
we'll bring them all here, man.
So that's really about. That's it for me.
That's it. Now, were you a big Broadway guy growing up in New York?
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah. Musical theater. That's. I don't like talking about it much, but I'm like, that's true. Yeah, I am. I'm a theater geek. I really do, because Broadway was always right there, so I could take the train. I used to go by myself. Like some people go to movies by themselves. I would go see Broadway shows by myself, and because you'd go at a certain time, you get discount tickets. So yeah, I get these discount tickets. You'd wait till the last minute, and usually it's like $100 for a ticket. All of a sudden, you're paying $25 for a ticket. So I'd be like, oh my god! So I can go. I saw Titanic twice. It was like a movie. Like I was going to a movie there. It's like I'm gonna go see this again. And I saw Petula Clark, Downtown. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, she was doing something with Sean Cassidy and David Cassidy. They were doing Step Brothers, I think. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, because I knew Sean and David Cassidy. But all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I'm like, Petula Clark. And I'm looking through the playbill. I'm like, Downtown. She sings Downtown. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Okay, this is kind of cool. So yeah, I had some fun. It was a good time. Yeah.
So how did you go about, what does it take to write a screenplay? And then on top of that, a horror screenplay. I mean, that's like a whole different...
Well, screenplay, my big thing, like I said, I always wrote regular plays, so I had a lot of free time. We were living in Jersey at the time, and I used to binge watch The Sopranos. I used to sit there, and one day I was just like,
who didn't?
I know. Oh my God. I used to dream Tony Soprano. It was like, oh, I have this episode again. All right, here we go. But I got to the point where I was bored, and I was doing a little bit of stand-up, but I never wrote the screenplay before. So I'm like, how do you write a screenplay? So I Googled screenplay and this and that. So I'm like, I had a lot of free time. So I'm like, let's try writing this screenplay. And the first thing I wrote was, it was called The Clown Motel at the time, because I did some research. I'm like, all right, I like horror, because I could go on horror for days and days and days. So I'm like, let's write a horror script, because at least that's what I know, it's what I'm comfortable with. And I researched a lot of things, and all of a sudden I found this motel, and I'm like, okay, let's read the reviews on this motel. What's it about? And I looked at these reviews, and there were all these funny things that people were saying. Oh, this is haunted. This is that. I'm like, right here, let's start. This is our base at this point. I'm going to start writing from this, because, it's horror. It seems fun. I never knew we would end up here. It was just one of those things, like, I need to kill some time. And writing plays, I was pretty much kind of done with it, because I had done it already. So I wanted to go to a next level, and it was just for me. So I just started writing that, and that's where it came. And then from there, it just started to evolve over the years. And to where it is at this point, where it's just like, oh my God. Because originally it was a POV. That was the whole idea. It's like, oh, POVs are really cheap to shoot. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any better. But when you talk to a director of photography, they're like, you know what POVs, can I curse? POV is a pain in the ass. They said because you have to, if you have like 3 people running and one person messes up, you have to reshoot that entire thing again. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know any of this. So basically, so the script just starts to evolve from there. And then it's like, well, it's no longer a POV. It's going to be this because this is easier, and then this is easier. And it's like, okay, how do you make scary at this point? So I'm like, well, what would scare me? So Sergio knows I've been having nightmares at this point from the new script. Like, oh my God, that's kind of scary. I'd go to sleep and then I'd wake up and like, yeah, I'm a little bit freaked out now. And I actually had an actor just call me up the other day. I reached out to this one actor because he had worked this on another project. And I'm like, hey, you want to do it? He's like, no, I'll read the script. And he read the script and he called me like 2 days later. He's like, Mark, and I could just hear it in his voice. He's like, spoke to my wife and he's like, I just won't be good. I just won't be good. He's like, the whole clown thing and this, and it's really kind of eerie, man. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to do a good job for you. He's like, because the whole time I'm just going to be going, I'm a little bit freaked out. I'm just a little bit scared. And he was dead on it. He's a grown man. I'm like, I get it, because I guess acting is just like a sport. I mean, if you're going to play some football, you're going to go hard, and it's going to take a toll on your body and everything else. So when it comes to acting too, it's, if you don't, like a lot of actors, I need to read the script first, because emotionally, it can just screw with your mind. I think Breaking Bad had an actor on it. I think the character's name was Tuco. He asked to be written off the show after a while because the character he was playing, the energy he was bringing to it, the mental energy, he was like, I just can't anymore. He's like, it's too much for me. He's like, I'm exhausted from doing this. He's like, my family, he's like, I go home to my family. He's like, I can't, it's like, it's hard to turn it off sometimes, to be there and then be off. He's like, emotionally, it's just exhausting. So I laughed at my actor. I was like, I get it, man. I get where you're coming from.
When you say that, it kind of reminds me, did you ever see that movie about Andy Kaufman by Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Where he just kind of got so into that character that he couldn't turn it off. I mean, there was no line. He couldn't delineate the line between his acting and the actual person.
Right. Some people can just do it, but other people, and those are the people I love to work with in any sense, just go in, go hard, and when it's all over, I feel if you're not exhausted or something, you just didn't do it right. That's just my opinion on it. But
I did a little acting in high school. I'm not any thespian by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to connect with what you're doing. You have to have the emotional connection. You have to be able to connect to it. So it's, in a way, it seems like to me that guy would be the perfect person to do it, because emotionally connected, he's scared to death of this. Mm-hmm. So who else better to play this than a guy that's actually scared to do it?
Right, but he was the nicest person, and his character, it turns out, to become like this demon and just all out evil. It's like, but like you said, it's an emotional connection. It's basically, it's a relationship. It's like you and your wife, and you guys got married. You got to love what you do, and if you don't, then you shouldn't be there.
Oh, by the way, she's hating me right now because she's missing sleep.
See, and the fact, like, you guys came all the way here from Dallas, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're in San Antonio. It's a long drive, and you packed up your gear and you made that commitment. It's like, we're going to go there. We're going to go in hard, and we're going to give it our all. And you did. You came here. You have your mic set up. You staying at the hotel.
Sometimes you got to be emotionally involved, but I love this. I love it. This is really cool. So tell me, Mr. Bill, how did you get involved with the project?
Well, I've been producing for about 50 years. I have 6 kids and 15 grandchildren. And then decided to get in the real estate business.
You're a lifelong producer.
Yeah, that keeps me incredibly busy.
Yes, sir.
So to get away from that a little bit, I started a real estate business about 51 years ago in Austin, Texas, and have been doing that for that period of time. And as time went along, I lost my mind a little bit and got into dancing. I just left a national contest that I think I won. I find out tomorrow. I've been dancing this competitively internationally for about 6 years.
That is cool.
Doing all this producing, then I ran into Mark, who I didn't realize was so old until a few minutes ago, because he knows who Petula Clark is.
Yes.
So I wasn't really thinking about getting into this business, and we have a mutual friend who showed me this script that is just fascinating. I've read it about 9 times. My children have read it. My grandchildren have read it. I'm really looking forward to everybody being able to visualize what he has created. I think it's a 100% great cinematic, I hope, production, and really looking forward to it.
Thanks.
So what's your kids and your grandkids read it, you're in? I mean, you're pretty much in. Once they like it, you're in.
Well, I've got grandkids from 22 to 2.
Wow.
Okay, and my major forte is I coached baseball forever, so all the 10 boys have to play baseball. And I spend probably about a third of my time making sure from high school down that they're playing baseball. And it's kind of hard for Mark to find me sometimes because I'm out T-ball to junior high baseball,
That's
etc.
good.
Spending my time doing that.
So are you from the Texas, Austin originally?
I was born up in Iowa, but in 1951, my family visited my uncle in Austin. Christmas of 1951 was 85 degrees. We never went north again. Okay. Dad called for the furniture, sent it down, and we've been there ever since. And that was 1951, and I've lived and worked there ever since, and that's a wonderful place to be.
Well, okay, so being as you're from Iowa, what is your favorite place in Texas to visit other than Austin?
Padre Island.
Padre Island?
Get out on the beach and whatever.
Once again, you're talking her language.
Well, it's the one south, particularly. Golly, that beach there has been man-made with white sand and whatever, and my grandchildren just love it, and the food's good, and I never want to come home.
So you're financially involved in this movie, and so your goal is
the money, yes.
So your goal is to sell this. I mean, you don't do anything unless it's profitable. So how do you go about selling the movie? I mean, what does that take to sell one?
Well, I have a daughter and a son-in-law in Hollywood that are working a little with Mark and everything, and they are really the people coaching me. That they are writers professionally, and one produces movies, and we're listening to them how you do that, etc. And our focus right now, as they've taught me, is you got to have a good product. And once you have a good product, it's fairly easy. When you have a crummy product, it's very difficult. Okay.
I don't know. It seems like we see a lot of that crummy product come out over out in the movies. I've seen a lot of crappy movies over the years.
Well, I think in the last year in particular, if you notice when you're watching Netflix, there are a lot of them foreign movies, etc., because it's very difficult to make movies in COVID. I know Mark and I have learned that. We tried to do this some time ago and are a little frustrated because we really are enthusiastic about this movie and want to get it done. And we were postponed because of disease issues, virus issues for about a year. But now we're back on track and excited and ready to go.
Okay, so what is a time frame like from start to finish? How long does it take to produce a movie?
Oh, so it's our first one. But this one, well, right now we're 4 months, almost 5 months out. So I think that's a pretty good time to go in. Sergio has been doing film for a while, so he can actually probably tell you more. But for us right now, we're about 5 months out. The script's good. I'm not going to say it's not going to go through a few more rewrites because I'm a writer first. So if you leave me alone with it, I will rewrite it over and over and over again to the point.
That's correct.
Yeah, to the point where people are just like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I missed this, or I missed that, or I missed this, or this character it's better going this way." And then you start talking to people, and they start giving you their input, and it's like, I didn't even see that. I didn't see that. I just don't want to. I'll watch a movie and pick it apart, and that's horrible. Because I'll sit there and that's a huge gap right there. How come they didn't see that? So when I sit down to write, that's what happens. I'm like, I didn't see this last time. We were talking about something the other day. He came up with, I forgot what you said about a character, and I'm like, yes, yes. And we have another character who, she was just supposed to be a demon, and it's kind of cool, but all of a sudden I'm like, how did she get there in the first place? Why is she there? This and that. So it's like, now I have to put her in earlier in the script and actually give her a line or two to justify her being at that place. And so it's like 2 lines will help, and just, you know, like 2 seconds of screen time will justify everything for her. But originally it was just, oh yeah, it's kind of cool, she'll be there and she'll show up and she'll do this, and then I'm like, but how did she get there? And I'm like, she's not part of the original group, and it's part is, you know, this big, but damn it. Yeah.
So Bill's over there tapping his watch. Hey man, time's money. That's crazy, man. But you know, I get what you're saying. I know you guys have done this. You've watched some movies in the past where you're watching it and you see one scene and somebody's sitting there and they got half a glass of water, and then somebody edited it down. The next scene they got a quarter glass of water, and then they do another scene and they're like in a full glass of water, and you're like, oh my God.
It's like clothing. Sergio pointed out to me, he's like, well, you know, this scene they're wearing, even because in my mind, like, oh, it all takes place the same day. They can wear the same clothing. Yeah, kind of, but you need 3 pairs of those jeans because they're going to go from, you know, this, all of a sudden, the next scene, they're going to have blood on them. So you can't use that again. It's like, oh my God, these are things I just didn't think about. And then I come to Bill and I'm like, remember that budget? I didn't know this, or I didn't know this. And that's hard for me, because in the very beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. And it's like, oh, this will be fine with this. And all of a sudden, like, I called him last night. I was stressed, just totally stressed out. I'm like, I didn't think about this, or I didn't think about that. And, you know, there's this over here that needs to be paid for, and I forgot about this. And he said, don't be stressed. Just be calm. Be calm. So, you know, I listen to Bill, and I try to calm down as much as I can, but if it wasn't for him, maybe we wouldn't be here, and I would probably be hanging from outside from a tree, to be honest.
What's Bill's last name? Zen?
Zen, exactly. Bill Zen, yes. It's just very cool about things, you know, and he just came off a dance competition too. So yeah, he had this dance competition, just got off the plane. I'm calling him, you know, with all my stress, and he's like, it's going to be, relax. It's going to be okay. Okay.
Has there ever been a movie before over budget? So from day one, we had this budget, but with a grain of salt. Right. So the only thing I worry about in this movie is his intensity. We just can't get him intense enough.
I gotta try a little hard. I'm just thinking every time Bill gets a phone call from him, he's like, how much is this one going to cost me? How much is this phone call going to cost me?
I mean, this we talk on the phone. We try to get the conference room, and I called up the other day. I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, and I hung up the phone on someone. And then you texted this morning, you're like, I got the conference room. I just have to talk with someone. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, so this is a conversation me and my wife were having last night. She says, have you got a place lined up yet? Have you got a place lined up to do this interview? I said, I'll work it out. And she says, I know you don't do anything without a plan. You plan everything out meticulously. You have everything. And I'm like, we'll get it. So this morning I'm walking around, I'm talking to some guy that happens to be the manager of the place, and explain the situation to him. He's like, okay, yeah, y'all can use it. Just make sure it looks the same as it did when you come in. No problem.
I called up and they're like, it's gonna come. I'm like, goodbye. I can't talk to you. You don't understand.
Speaking of budgets, here's the guy here. Here's the budget killer right here, Sergio.
It's not me.
It's right. It's not him. It's what I put on paper, and he brings it to reality. He's like, there you go. And it's like that's what you wrote.
Yeah, but he's not going to do it cheaply. He's going to make it look as good as he can. His reputation's on the line.
Well, that's actually the real cool thing about this. Like, Mark's been, as far as like I know, when he's been writing and all, he's been really, really open about like ideas and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a really nice collaboration. But he does have that intensity and the passion, and that's what I think works. So it makes you want to do like your best job when you're in a team. Like I used to do, I was in band. I'm a band geek, and when you do like jazz band, or you're like in a large marching band or whatever, the coolest thing to me is being able to work with people that have that are willing to put in the 150%, 200%, because it makes you better,
Right.
And I love that about kind of like ensemble type work, and something like this, like a film, the director is the most important part because they're the guiding light, and if they don't have a good vision, then everything else is just going to be,
Mediocre,
flaky. Yeah. So it's good that he has that, and then all I try and do is just be realistic and say, okay, well, this is what we can do with, like, in reality, and this is how much that would cost, and this would cost. And then we have to see, like, okay, well, what's more important, right, to be able to create this vision? Like sometimes, and I'll tell directors myself, like sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll let them know, like, look, that's a really great idea, but you're going to end up spending, a couple of $1,000s on something that you could probably shoot slightly different and save that money for a bigger effect, so that it has more value in the film, and so that's at least what I try and bring to this project, trying to help Mark with that, just give him.
So tell us how you got into the makeup portion of the movie industry.
Well, I've loved like Halloween and scary movies since I was a kid. Like I was the kid that like snuck out to go watch scary movies. We used to live with my cousins, and they were like in high school when I was like 10 years old, and so we were supposed to be asleep, my brother and I, and around like 11:30 or something, I'd sneak out to go to my cousin's room. They had like Night of the Creeps and all the old 80s like horror movies playing, Yeah, and so I grew up with that kind of stuff, and I like doing makeup. I like creating the monsters. And the first costume contest I won, it was in kindergarten. I was 5 years old, so I had a lot of help from my aunts and my mom to make this Frankenstein's monster costume, And we took like a couple of months just studying everything, like watching the monsters. We didn't have the internet back then, kiddos. So it was like you had to find sources, and with horror, when I was growing up, at least, it wasn't something that was mainstream, right? So like there was very few books and very few magazines. Like Fangoria magazine was like the best thing, but you couldn't buy it as a kid or something. So you just had to, we would wait till the monsters came on and would watch it and just like religiously and try to figure out how we're going to get the square head and all that kind of stuff. And thankfully winning that competition, I guess, kind of gave me enough like, confidence to try again the next year and the next year. And by the time I was in high school, I was doing other people's costumes just because I wanted to make other people scary. And I started doing haunted houses, and that just all naturally kind of leads to film, because that's where I started. I wanted to make monsters, and so it's been 25 years that I've been doing it professionally now, I think, so I started The Darkness in 2005, and I had done consulting for like a lot of the haunted houses, like especially here in San Antonio. I've done work for the Halloween and party industry, and do like custom work and stuff like that, but film is always my favorite because you get to take these, like you get to make a story come to life. Like I can sculpt something and make a mask and sell it, and that's great, but it's just there. It's just that little thing. But going through like a script like this and seeing how things evolve, and it's so much bigger. I love it.
So what movies have you worked on in the past?
So I think I've probably done like 100, at least a little more than 100. Most of them are I'd say probably all of them. I don't think the biggest one I worked on budget-wise was a Disney film. I think it was called Kings of Appletown, but it wasn't anything like, I didn't get to do any monsters or anything like that. It was just the biggest one. So everything else has been like low-budget films and productions and things like that. But to be honest, like I've been in LA and I've gone to New York and I've worked in different parts of the industry. And I'm not really big about like the entertainment industry in itself or like Hollywood in itself. I just like creating and making things. So finding myself here in San Antonio was perfect because I get to kind of work from the get-go, like with producers and directors, to kind of create a whole vision instead of going somewhere like, let's say, LA or New York, where you're sort of like a small cog in a big machine, and you're sort of just making things like you need to make a mold, and I need you to do this kind of prosthetic or whatever. But the creation part of it is not really something that's available to you. Because these big, obviously you've seen like a lot of the old horror 80s movies, these big names are still around, and those studios are the ones that, get most of the films.
They're getting all the work,
Yeah, they're getting all the work. So, so there's nothing wrong with that, but I've found that I like working from the get-go to create like things from scratch, and make them my own. And so I get to do that a lot with independent films. So I've done like I said, tons of them, a lot of short films, some stuff that's been like out, like The Killing Fields, I think. I forget the name sometimes. House of the Demon, Fighting with Anger. That one had Willie Nelson in it. That was cool because we shot it in like Round Rock or whatever, in this little. He has like a little ghost town that he shoots for like westerns and stuff like that. This was like 10 years ago though. But yeah, so did I answer your question? I don't even know. I start rambling too. It's that sleep thing. I should get some sleep.
So, somebody told me you was on a competition show on TV.
Yeah, I was on Face Off. It was the first season. So that was pretty cool. It was a nice change for me because, like probably since Face Off, and I don't know how much, Face Off itself like is responsible for this, but makeup, like effects and all that have gotten like way more mainstream. Like you get on Instagram and you see tons of people doing stuff. You get on YouTube, there's tons of people doing stuff, So I'm sure it's partially the fact that our social media has been, kicked up like many notches, right? But when that show started, it still was just, like not that many people were into doing makeup and all that kind of stuff. So one of the issues that I've had, why I hadn't worked in film for a while, is because it's, you get all these people that are very excited about doing something, but once the novelty wears off of what you're doing and they realize it's just hard work, behind it, a lot of people kind of like back out or they don't want to do it anymore. And so, it's really hard to build a team to do things, especially at a higher level. Like this film, we're going to have some really nice like effects and really cool things, I think. And so, I have thankfully have done this long enough where now I have a couple of good people to pick from, but trying to form a team that's just, available the whole time, that is hardworking all the time, that was really, really hard. But Face Off kind of gave me an opportunity to talk to people that were doing the same kind of thing as I was, and we had the same problems. And actually, the first night that we got to LA, we were in this little room together, like they're kind of a holding pen, and we spent the whole night, like all of us, there was 12 of us, spent the whole night just talking shop, because at least for me, I didn't have that. Like I wasn't living in LA, I wasn't living in New York, I was in San Antonio, and I didn't really have anybody to talk to about those kinds of things. So it was a really fun experience. I love all those guys. We still keep in contact. Not as much, with all of them, but they're all great, and so it was a really good experience.
The whole thing is these two are so driven. Bill and Sergio, and that pushes me because I want to do great for Bill. It's like I look at him as the coach, and this is the football team, and I just want to bring home the trophy for him. I just want to bring home that Super Bowl trophy. That's really it. That's all I want to do, is just make you proud.
Well, thank you very much. Go get it.
That's what I do.
You don't sound hungry enough.
And then him with his special effects. It's like we worked on a project together called "It's Crazy Out There." Bill mentioned that earlier, and he didn't even know what he could do. I had him doing, "Oh, can you do this?" He was like, "Yeah, I can do that." And all of a sudden, it was like, "Could you do a zombie?" He was like, and all of a sudden, it was people are, texting, dude, because they saw pictures, they're like, "Are you guys doing The Walking Dead? What is this?" And it's like, "Oh, Sergio was doing that." It's like in our garage, and he was just putting these wonderful things together. He had bullet wounds coming out of people. We had blood splatter coming from people's heads with gunshot wounds. I was like, oh, I still have blood in my bedroom on the ceiling and on the futon from the blood splat that he did. It was just amazing. It's just wow.
So where can people find information about your movie? Is there a website they can get on?
Well, we have our High Five and Ants website. That's highfiveanddanceproductions.com. You want to go there. Like I said, we're like about 4 or 5 months out, so we're getting our footing right now. And we're doing our podcasts, and we have our publicist out there who's booking us on podcasts left and right, which is good. So
you're shooting the movie in Nevada.
Shooting the movie in Nevada.
And it's about 4 or 5 months out. So whenever you guys start filming, can you give me a holler so we come out and visit the set?
You want to come out and visit? Yeah, you can come out and visit the set. Absolutely. Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, we have somebody else that wants to do. They're like, "Can I come out?" I'm like, "Do whatever you want." Yeah, you can come out. Cool. Absolutely, you can do your live podcasts out there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I can't wait to go out at that hotel.
The Clown Motel.
COVID has kept me from traveling there, but I can't wait.
You know, I think we're on the downhill swing. I really do. The numbers are dropping here in Texas because of I think we're riding down. I think we're coming to a slow end of all this, thankfully.
Yeah. The whole industry got just
hammered,
shut down completely. Yeah, so it's nice now. Everybody's kind of rearing to go. Have all these usually this is like my slow season, but I've had all these little projects just pop up because everybody's ready, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. So I think hopefully by the end of this year, I know for sure there's going to be a bunch of other productions going on already too. So that'll be great.
Bill, tell everybody where they can find you still doing realty, or are you retired?
I think so.
You still doing it? tell people where they can find your
partners. Paul Jensen, 2 companies in Austin, Texas. We're commercial real estate people. Business is wonderful, but we could add more. So if somebody is interested in helping pay for this movie, they could give us a call and we could place them in some investments in Austin, which is just booming.
That's great. Where can they find you at, Sergio?
My social media is probably the best place. I'm really horrible at upkeeping it. So, there's I saw yesterday, I got on TikTok and there's a video. I put 1 video on there. So, but usually you can find me through my name, Sergio Guerra FX, at Sergio Guerra Pics on Instagram, and on Facebook, Sergio Guerra. Anybody can contact me about anything that they want. I try and help out. So if you like doing makeup or you like any kind of stuff like that, I need any kind of guidance or whatever, just send me a question and I'll answer as best as I can.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys sitting in with us today. This is Casual Conversations, and man, I tell you, it's been a good one. Check us out on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you find your podcasts. So you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, stay healthy.
This is Big Skinny, and you've been listening to the PodShack Presents Casual Conversations with Big Skinny. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Hey, we'll see you.